And hello, welcome to Midnight Bloods. But here's a new series called Show Theory. And we're going to cover the lore of Hell of a Day. And we will also cover any of your fan theories. Leave in the comments of any episode or this. And we will cover your theories each episode. Al, if you give me that look one more time, I swear I'm gonna punch your freaking nuts. Al will later appear in the video explaining what his characters are like, and I will explain my characters later on too. So Necroblade's gay because he likes men. And okay, so let me just get to filming the lore. Now here we go. This is episode 1, the pilot. Now on episode 1, it started out with Penn on his phone. And Lee walking into the room and asking, who you texting? And then Vinny in the corner, yeah, your girlfriend. Yeah, who you texting? Your girlfriend. No, I'm texting a stripper to make a drug deal. The iconic weird line, which Al repeatedly says, what's with that long-ass phone? Exactly.
What is with it, though?
It's normal size for his hand and his body.
Cow!
And also those face tattoos Penn would have. They're not really like face tattoos, but they're like... Well, they are, but then he changed them over the years. Till ultimately leaning to not when he was bald also. Then, which covers... Okay, sorry, continuing. They would go to the strip club because they used to be drug dealers and stuff like that. Drug dealers to drug dealers, buying drugs, selling them off to like people and shit like that. Then they would meet Valentine, which Vinny, the horny gay fucker he is, falls in love with Valentine. Penn hits a blunt and starts seeing shit. Then they start to leave. Vinny is hesitant to try the cocaine. And he gets... So, Darla's watching from the corner. Then Penn decides to slam his face into the cocaine. Then he gets high as shit, and it goes a little montage of him getting high as hell. Then him waking up. Oh, what the fuck happened? And shit like that. Then there's a fucking femboy hooker. He's like, well, I kinda effed you in the ass. Well, he should have said fucked you in the ass, but I wasn't really prepared when we made this. Because we made this in a hot car. And we had to constantly open the doors. So continuing that, Lee appears. I'll kill you, you scarecrow looking motherfucker. Motherfucker, I swear to God, notifications one more time. Sorry. Continuing that. Shit. Lee starts to get ready to shoot him. And she is so busy screaming like a cartoon character. Then I know her. Not from her, from the other angle. Penn on the roof, shooting her, and Dolly just watching him. Well, this is normal occurrence. But if we went timeline-wise, hold on, then I'll figure out the timeline placement in like a part 2. Okay, so continuing this. Sorry. Basically, they do a little, just random stuff for a second. Then Vinny's complaining, what are we gonna do with Lee's body? So basically, they hide Lee's body. Then they end up blowing it up because Vinny starts chugging gasoline because Penn says, that shit's good. Then Penn decides to try and smoke, and then it lights it up in flames, creating an explosion, which makes the first ever fourth wall break, hitting the screen. Hiya! Literally, that's just what happened. Then they go to the zoo, and the episode ends, which leads to season 1, episode 2. Oh, I forgot to cover on episode 1. At the ending scene, there's Lee's grandma on the phone talking to somebody, which leads to episode 2. Vinny gets a call from Valentine after watching Donner's cooking show, being invited to a dinner to meet his parents. Then he starts talking to Penn and fucking notifications, I swear. Penn gets mad because he doesn't want him to leave because he wants him to stay and do a barbecue and do fireworks with him and Darla. And he gets just nearly beat down by the cops. So then they are arguing. Then Darla's crying and they're going back and forth about how old they are and crap like that. How none of them should be acting like this, but they do. Vinny gets in the car with Valentine. They go to his parents. Then Penn has a freak out at a coffee shop. The fuck is you saying your shit? Exactly. So continues it going back to there, and then repeatedly on purpose, Valentine's dad is getting Vinny's name wrong. Then leads to, oh, we got a special guest. Then Granny comes in, beats the shit out of Vinny, shoots him, and Valentine starts throwing a hissy fit. Then it cuts to Penn with Ulster ham. Then he shoots him with a rocket, exploding him. Which, don't worry, later on in Season 2, you will get to know what actually happened to Ulster ham after that. Then, from what I remember, Vinny shows up in time enough to see Penn get his yearly beat down by the cops. And he's like, yes, yes, yes. Now leads to Season 1, Episode 3. This should be short. So basically, this just is like a short story where it walks in where they're all bored and crap like that. Valentine's braiding Vinny's hair. Then Penn can't find anything to watch. Then Darla says, well, how about you book us like a show or something? And then they book a show somewhere. And then it leads to a sneak peek where Vinny's being chased by a gigantic ass floating spider. And I'm gonna tickle your butt and no! And that was the recap of episode 3. Season 1, Episode 4, Road to Disaster. Penn and Vinny are at Valentine's house hearing his dad and him argue. Valentine and him argue. And continues to them getting in the car, then booking a show. Then Vinny decides to just invite Valentine instead of asking Penn. Then 5 seconds later, after already deciding he's coming with, can he come with? Penn is starting to drive. Then Valentine and Vinny fall asleep. Vinny starts having the nightmare about the spider again. Then he wakes up screaming. Darla punches him. Ow, no freaking whatever the hell. Dildos.
I searched a prop grenade, I swear.
I'm done. Continuing this. Benny wakes up getting punched, then they're like, Penn is like, we're here. Continuing this, leading into the concert where they meet his cousin, Paul, who's a juggalo. And he shows some tattoos. Then the tattoo on his ass cheek is like right ass cheek of a hatchet man. They get into the show, and they start singing Forever by ICP. And continuing this, Granny's in the crowd, which leads to one of the most gayest moments in the show, where he punches Granny, and then she slaps him. He's like, you know, hey, bitch. Hi, yes. Then which leads to a scene where Vinny is getting fucked in the bathroom by Valentine. And then they're like, what are they doing in the bathroom? And then Penn, don't be sucking his dick back there. We're going to the ranch. My cousin's ranch. Which leads to Season 1, Episode 5. It starts off them getting to the ranch. Well, first, they hit SpongeBob and Patrick, which are knockoffs. Boy Sponge and Rick Pat. Then, they get to the ranch. They meet Paul again. I have googly eyes on the ass cheeks. Then, Vinny's trying to drag a suitcase. Then Paul picks him up by the back of the shirt. It also has one scene where Valentine's in a sexy cowboy outfit. Then they go to a 7-Eleven where Paul puts on a dress and juggalo makeup, and he starts running down the street in a dress. Then which leads where they go to bed. Then at like 2 in the morning, or no, it was 3. I can't remember what time it was. But then where he's screaming at the top of his lungs with some distorted filter on his voice, while having ABK makeup on like a Corey Taylor mask from Slipknot with Roman candles.
Specifically, the All Hope Is Gone era.
The All Hope Is Gone era mask. Then which continues to them getting high, lighting the weed fields on fire with a dog, which leads to season 1, episode 6. Now what happens is it cut to Pennyworth and Vinny Penn at home smoking weed, getting high. Then they start having a conversation how about they literally just left Valentine and Darla at the ranch just so they could go home, get high, and go to White Castle. Then a White Castle ad appears on screen, and they get really hungry for it. And then they start to leave, and then Penn starts saying something about inviting the neighbors, and he's like, never mind. Then Vinny's like, oh, that's rude, man. Then it gets into the car. They start having conversations, weird conversations. Then randomly, Vinny, I seen a dude shove a monster can up his ass. There was another conversation about, have you ever nutted to one of your family members? What? So I started I started thinking about how I miss my mom. Then randomly, Vinny loves you. Or I mean, mommy loves you, Vinny. Then I nutted, and then it cuts. I think it was the car broke down. They meet a homeless or hobo who's married to a hot woman who shows them her titties. And then they leave. They meet Violet and Jay. Then they get to White Castle. Well, first they get wheat from a dealer and shit like that, which leads to season 1, episode 7. Vinny dyes his hair to blue, dark blue. In fact, then leads to Penn making fun of him, making a joke that where you're having a midlife crisis at that age, everybody's like yelling at him and shit like that, so he decides to leave to the human world to take a vacation. Then people get worried because he left without them. They go into the world. Penn tries to Grimace shake, and there's just Grimace under a spotlight with a dead body by him. Then, which leads to Penn having flashbacks about their lives being so depressed, which leads to Vinny and him, when they were children, talking about wanting to go to an ICP concert and thinking about sneaking out. Then his dad appears, Vinny's, and yells at him, "Get your ass inside now," which leads to his mama, covered in bruises, that she was beaten up and bruised. But then Penn has to go home. He may have said his parents, but his parents are long dead. They've been dead since he was 3. And continuing, he's been living with his aunt and his cousin. Or I mean, it's not his aunt, sorry. It is his cousin and his cousin's wife. His cousin has been through hell, Iraq, Afghanistan, all of those things, and just he has had a horrible life. And I forgot to include, he did mention his wife's passing and how his wife died. And his basically best friend, Boone, which is Uncle Boone to him. And they start talking about how once they all the chores done, his cousin's wife, in words his mother, because he sees her as his mother. Those are the only parents he's ever had and the only family he knows, because he has no memory of his mother or his father. And that fact, those are his parents, and he grew up in like, I forgot the name of what I call the town, but what town they're in now is called Rolandsburg. And which leads to that though, is after that he starts having other flashbacks of when he had to adopt Darla when she was 3, the same way some of his parents did. Well, his parents died and Paul had to take him in. The exact same thing was put on him, the way it was his cousin. It's like, I don't know how to take care of a kid. Then they're like, well, we don't know. We're gonna have to send her to a foster home. He's like, wait, no, I can take care of her. See, that's the whole thing. Then when he breaks it to her in the most heart-wrenching way. Yeah, your parents kind of killed somebody. They're getting death row for this. You're never gonna see your parents again. But see, that's the sad thing. And during this, Ozzy Osbourne's Dreamer is playing in the background, which leads to flashbacks of when Lee and Vinny first started dating. And see, that's the thing. They loved each other so much, but yet one single thing fucked it up. And that has to make you think, what the fuck? And he wakes up from these, and he starts, like, wondering what's happening. Then outside there's a guy in a purge mask. Then a purge siren starts going off, and Vinny starts screaming at the top of his lungs while everybody else is just like, this is fine. Vinny, in the meanwhile, literally screaming after everybody's just fine, except for him. Then Darla starts committing crimes, because she's like, wait, this is the purge. She starts lighting shit on fire, which starts playing Mad Professor. Yep, Mad Professor. It was funny, though. Which led to, literally, Penn beating the shit out of the fucking purge guy with a Glock. Then continues with him meeting Inosuke, anime fan. Wow. Continuing.
Anime fan, because
Yeah, an anime fan. Well, you don't care.
the IW stuff.
Yeah.
If it's one of those, you put "and" in front of it.
Well, let me continue. Sorry. Okay, so continuing this, an anime fan who was really obsessed with Demon Slayer. Then when Penn sees the guys and Darla, see, they're stuck with a human form as soon as they enter. They don't need to disguise or anything, but they can make it wear off after a while. So they all hug and all that crap, and they're all crying. Then when they get ready to leave, Valentine gets shot, which leads to Season 2, Episode 1, which is an entire episode based on when they were younger. After 2 years, Darla is now, 5 years old. And this is all based in the 70s. See, their timeline works different. Their modern day is like the 90s, from what I remember. And Penn is only like 18. And that's when he started taking care of Darla. Then he went through other phases where he would change the tattoos to a circle on his head, and they went by names, because that's when they first started selling drugs with Lee and all that stuff. Then they ran into a familiar character of Brandon Rogers, Grandpa. Vinny gets kicked. You're a little raccoon. Pfft. I am not a raccoon. Pfft. Ah! Well, okay, I ain't buying you that minute. Then which leads to the mayor wanting them. Then turns out the mayor is Bryce Tankthrust, and she wants to buy drugs. And for something I can't remember why, not to rat on them about selling drugs to her, is she needed to get laid.
Because,
she wanted the drugs, but she didn't really want, but she was threatening. She was also really horny, so she threatened to turn them in.
what did she say?
I can't entirely remember what she said.
On edge.
She's on edge. Then in the other room, then he's like, I think I have AIDS now, from Vinny. Then Lee's like, well, I ain't fuck her, you fuck her. Which led to later on, she died.
Technically divorcing, it counts.
Then, which led to them stealing a freaking burger mascot because Darla wanted the statue. Then you first ever meeting like classic Valentine. We find Valentine's original girlfriend, which Vinny's like, really? Had a girlfriend before me, and he said he never did. Which also I forgot to mention in the beginning. It started off with Valentine in the hospital. Then Penn starts to realize, I remember when I first ever met Valentine. Then he recalls the whole day, which is the episode. Then he comes back home to Vinny, high on who knows what, in Boondocks makeup, getting ready to jump off the roof. Which show concludes the episode with Valentine and Vinny First ever saying for the first time they love each other, which leads to season 2, episode 2. They all get into costumes.
I just popped a nut. Ow!
Valentine gets out of the hospital. They all get dressed for Halloween. People make fun of Vinny's costumes. And then Darla says, oh wait, shit, I spiked all the candy. What? Start beating the shit out of little children, stealing back the candy. Vinny flies for the first time. Well, this was when all of them also got somewhat updated looks. Then it turns out Darla did not spike any of the candy. Then it cuts to a graveyard scene where secretly Granny had a spell book which resurrected Lee, a burnt up, partially blind Lee, which is now played by a new actor who is now gone because later on home. But this is what ends the episode, and a song sung by Ash Onyx, which leads to season 2, episode 3. Starting off with Valentine smoking, Vinny grabbing his shoulder, then him pulling away because he found it a secret. Then Valentine and Penn talking. Then Valentine and Penn going out for a bit, not like dating, but like hanging out. Then which Valentine reveals to Penn that Lee showed up, and it says that he killed his ex, that Vinny killed his ex-girlfriend. When Penn says, no, I killed her. And then he's like, well, it doesn't make anything better, and all this stuff. Which also led to Vinny getting attacked by Lee and almost left dead. But the next episode he's apparently perfectly fine. Which leads to season 2, episode 5. A round portal opens up, leading into another dimension, the dimension of lust, which is where Mims, who is now Mimes, kidnaps the guys and takes them into the dimension of lust, where they meet Hansel. Shit, sorry. It was his original concept name, where they would also meet Gretel. But Gretel, and it's a little bit after that. So they meet Mims, which is now Mimes, and Hansel, and they start talking. And then they meet Joji, where Joji starts singing Attention. Then they meet the main guys who are above Hansel and them, who may return in a later episode in season 3, and which are Shaggy, which is Sugar Bear, and Big Baby Sweet, which is Violent J. Then they run into ABK. Then they meet Gretel, and they get thrown into the sex dungeon.
I like how they met like ABK and stuff, but they didn't meet Madrox or Monoxide, who were Blazing and Homie.
They will appear some other time. And then they met Bernard, where Bernard knew the way out, but he couldn't get out of the chains. Then they went into the real world once more, which led to the next episode. Season 3, episode 5. They get ready for a dinner party at Valentine's parents again, bringing all of them, and Bernard. Then they meet their next door neighbors, Hope and Captain. Short introduction, but then they have to leave and go to the party. Then gets there, then Penn's talking about why he's aromantic, well, Aero-Ace, and how the last ex-girlfriend he said, you need to get mental help, you can't just keep telling me your problems. It's like, he's like, oh, boo fucking who, I'm just as mentally ill as the next guy. Then continues to show up, Vinny's dad, who was secretly banging Valentine's dad. Oh! Which leads to Vinny bursting out into song, then getting hit in the nuts. Then Gretel showing up and forcefully kissing Penn. Penn falling in love. They end up dating. Which leads to the end of the episode where Vinny stole a whole bunch of cash. And then you hear from the other room, bitch, you sent me video I was recording. Then hears Captain from the other room, "Do you shut the fuck up?" Which leads to Season 2, Episode 6. Which is a Thanksgiving episode. Where Penn had a temporary AI voice because I had to take a break. And, which led to, Penn waking Bernard up. And Valentine and Vinny having a whole asthma attack for like a minute straight. Oh shit, sorry. Which continues them cooking. Lee showing up at the window. Gets hit with the pie, flies out the window. Then Catherine comes over with the pie for Thanksgiving dinner. Then basically that's how it ends. They all ate Thanksgiving dinner, which leads to Season 2, Episode 7, where we find out Valentine this whole time had a kid. Then she was dropped off by Truman, who showed up in the White Castle episode, who decided to drop him off. Then starts telling Valentine, "You need to change your address, because when you used to live with me, now your dildos and porn max are showing up at my place." All that shit, basically. Then Valentine's ecstatic that he has a daughter, and he's happy because, see, her mother is dead. Then Vinny gets called Mommy. So Vinny is now basically the man mom of V, his daughter. There's like a whole entire damn thing with like these fucking V's, the 3 V's. I just made that before Aspen Hotel. Ha! Well, which continues. Vinny's also happy to be somewhat like a father and mother, whatever the fuck he is, stepdad, because he's like a father now because he's happy. Then he takes them fucking laser tag. And while they're gone, Penn has a serious talk with Gretel about having children. Let's just say he may be asexual, but every once in a while he can at least still smash up. But yeah, which continues. Then when Valentine knocks Vinny off the edge of a steering wheeling after in the VR thing with the kid. Then Vinny gets so mad they start shooting up the fucking VR thing. I mean, what the fuck does VR? The laser tag thing. Then it cuts to the scene where Valentine has proposed to Vinny and they are getting married. Which leads to the next episode. Season 3, Episode 8. No, this is where it gets bad. So, after, like, a month after getting married, Valentine and Vinny get into an argument over all of this. And, continuing this, Valentine, they continue to argue and screaming at each other about each other's dads. Because, I can't remember what we did for this, but Valentine's dad took something too far. And he's yelling about, like, why does your dad do these things? Like, shut up, your dad never even loved you, he left you. And then stuff like that. Then then Penn steps in and says, dude, you need to be quiet. His dad was around for at least a while and at least somewhat cared. He may have been a bad dad, but at least his dad isn't a psychopathic fuck who won't let you love anyone. And stuff like that. Then he's like, shut up, your parents are dead. And that was a low blow from Valentine. A really low one. Which leaves Penn silent. But secretly in the basement, I forgot to mention, in the episode of when we meet the daughter, it's around Christmas time. Bernard goes shopping for a toy for the kid. Then he meets Jack, the shopkeeper, who's selling him random things. And he's like, no, I need toys. Bombs? Which leads to Lee buying a nuke from him and putting it in the boiler room and lighting it off, killing her and Vinny, leading to an emotional scene where Penn's basically almost dying out there, waiting for him to see what happens. And he's getting hit by multiple things like police, horses, and shit like that. Then he watches Vinny in a body bag, and he wakes up in the hospital. and turns next to him where Vinny is laying there, basically a corpse, unrecognizable, dead. And Vinny flatlines. Where it cursed his pen, and his eyes have now turned red. The black is now red, and his pupils are still blue. Continuing, leading to the next scene, where it's a 5-month, or I can't remember how many months it was, but it was a time skip where Penn is now a soul patch, girl's pregnant, and they're getting ready to move out of Paul's, because they had to stay there for a bit. Which leads to the next season, to episode 9. In the afterlife, Vinny, as thinks he's still alive, he gets a text from his mom, who's been long dead for years. He goes to her place and meets Officer Ham, who's supposedly banging his mom in the afterlife. And Officer Ham's face is fucked up on the side, and they go inside and start the party. Vinny's very hesitant, and he meets multiple people. Al, which is like Valentine's dad. No, the Al, who's over on his bed being a gay man. Inosuke, Officer Ham, and Lee, and his mother. They all sit down for dinner over things that reconcile of how they've died and all these things. They all continue and talked about how they died, like Officer Ham, after that, became so depressed because he became ugly after what Penn did. Somehow Penn doesn't belong in hell. But continuing this, he talks about how after that he quit the police force and he wasn't up to anything anymore. He became so depressed that he turned to drugs, which he ended up overdosing. Inosuke, when he came there, nobody would hire him because he looked so weird because he was human. So he starved to death. Led to Al dying in the most weirdest way, bad way, choking on Vinny's dad's cock. Yes. Then Lee, as you already know, how she died, along with Vinny. And they start talking about how they could be together in the afterlife and where everybody's going, and how Officer Ham, Inosuke, and his mom are going to heaven. Now Vinny's damned to go to hell with Lee now. And in the afterlife, Vinny and Lee may be together. There's just a city in hell where they could be together. But he decides, last moment, he doesn't want to go. And he runs. Being chased by the black goo of the afterlife coming to get him. Then he hears a call. He picks it up. It's Valentine. And he has a final conversation with Valentine. It's finally the fellow goes dead. And everything's black. And he is now gone. Leads to the next episode. Season 3, Episode 1. I'm gonna fuck your dad. Don't test me. I may be straight, but still. Which leads to the next episode, where they're in a car after months, and then finally they all moved on. Valentine and someone lost connection. They just bought a new house. Then Valentine is still working at the strip club. Darla basically forces him to go on stage and film a song against an audience with Bernard and her and him, and he starts singing our song, In the Veins. Then leads to the ghost of Vinny. After that, he woke up and got out of his body. Found a body who looked like very similar to his, but yet somewhat similar to from the game Cry of Fear, Simon Hendrickson. Then
Simon Hendrickson, can you blow my whistle, baby?
I'm gonna kill your whole family. He goes into the body of Simon, then continuing to go to the old house where it was burnt up. Then he starts looking around. Then he stops at the strip club, seeing his old van. Going inside the meeting, Postal Dude, the bartender, listening to a worried Al the animator, sitting there. Oh, so I like this girl and all this.
He's not. He wasn't worried. He was
This whole
drunk,
ecstatic out of the
also
internet.
mad.
Man, just listening to him, this whole conversation, I bet he is so fucking tired of it. Then he starts talking to him. Vinny does, in Simon's body. And starts talking to him.
Which now his name is Vinny Henriksen.
Well, it's not classified just yet until the new episode released. We were supposed to say that came out.
They cut it. They cut it out.
Too bad, it's already stuck. But basically, continuing this, where's Valentine on stage basically busting it down? Oh, yeah, get it, ho. I'm gonna puff dust these bitches. Now, if you ever need a babysitter, just leave your kid in the ball pit. A ball pit in a strip club, though, just imagine that.
Kid finds a dildo.
Kid just finds a dildo in the ball pit.
Kids like throwing balls at the
They're throwing balls at each other, and they pick up a dildo. And they start sword fighting with dildos in the ball pit. Okay, continuing this. Jack Bustin. Oh, I can't believe I have to get a drink at the stupid strip club. Then, instantly, Penn recognizes him. You fucker, you killed my friend. He's like, no, I sold my products, and my products worked. He's like, then like, we're taking this outside. And they start fighting, and Penn is basically losing. Till Vinny pulls out the fucking shotgun behind the counter and shoots Jack. But Jack isn't dead. He is what you call a deity. A demigod, somewhat demigod, mixed with an angel and a demon. And that's how the episode ends, which is leading to the new episode. And that is how this ends. In part 2 will be a character analyzation and a timeline.